Welcome to the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone. Today on the program, I'm joined by a 2022 All-Star. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show New York Yankee pitcher Nestor Cortes. Nestor, I appreciate you coming on the program, man.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I wanted to start this out a little bit different. I mean, I know you've had an interesting journey through to get to where you are now, and we'll get to that in a second. But I want to have a quick All-Star segment with you. I was thinking back years and years ago when I made my first All-Star team and how important it was. We all grew up as kids. I'm sure you're similar to me, and the first thing you always want to be a baseball player, and I want to be a baseball player. And then you get to the minor leagues, I want to be a big leaguer. You get to the big leagues, I want to be a everyday player, in the rotation. Then it gets to a point where, oh my gosh, another level. I made the All-Star team. I remember my first one. Um, 2022 was your first. Give me a little bit of insight on when you got the news. Who gave you the news? Was it Uncle Aaron? Did Aaron give you the news?
It was. It was. We were in actually weeks before that. I was a little nervous because to start off the year, I didn't really, I knew I came off to a good start, but I didn't know how reachable that was. And Aaron Boone in spring training was like, he came up to my locker in spring in Tampa, and he sat down next to me. He said, "You're gonna be an All-Star this year," and I'm like, come on, man. Like, I just came off like 3 terrible years. I had a good half year last year. I don't even know if I'm in the rotation, and you're telling me I'm going to be an all-star. Like, how does that work? And um, like I said, I came off to a good start, um, and it was getting to those weeks where votes were coming in, and we had to perform so people don't think that you were capable of being the pitcher who I was being throughout the whole half of the season. And we were in Boston, and they called me into the office, and Booney was like, "Hey, remember the conversation we had in Tampa?" And I already knew where he was coming from, so I'm like, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Congratulations, dude, you made it." And I couldn't believe. I know I was having a good season. I wasn't, oblivious to like not knowing what was happening, but just that news, that him saying that to me was so filling at the moment, because I it's like you said, when you're in high school, you want to make it to pro ball. When you're in pro ball, you want to make it to big leagues, and it's like I was in the big leagues, and I didn't even know what to expect, and now I'm here making my first All-Star game, and it was an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And sometimes I never got it. I got to go to a few of them, and there were guys that had made 6, 7, 8. Now, oh, we're not going to go to the All-Star game this year. I've got a little bit of a hamstring, and I used to say, "What are you talking
I
about?"
know.
We got a window as an athlete. If you're really good, you got 10 years. If you're exceptional, you go 15, and then obviously guys that get to play this longer than 15 are very rare.
Yeah,
But I just thought, man, as a player, I want to suck up everything I can. I want to go everywhere I can. If I go to the All-Star, I don't care if my leg's broken. I'm going to show up. I never understood that mindset of the All-Star game not being a big deal. It's an honor, and it's something we can't control. All we can control is what we do on the field. And
yeah,
then we're at the mercy of the voters. If you don't get the votes, it's like, and
exactly,
now it starts behind the scenes. And I remember a couple years where I'm thinking, man, I should be on that freaking team, and I'm not. But you're not going to go to the press and say, oh, I should be an all-star. You just, hey,
yeah,
my job is to just help my team, whoever that team is at the time.
exactly.
But when you walked in, for me, it was like I was looking at all the names, and to myself, I didn't say much, which was rare for me, but I was a young player, and I just kind of took it all in, like, wow, I'm with the best in the world right here, and I thought it was cool. The coolest thing for me later on in my career is I was in Seattle, and Mike Cameron got named like during the middle of a game uh, as an alternate or something. And it was his first All-Star game. And Cammy was a great player for a lot of years. And it was his first All-Star game. It was in Seattle. It was in our home city. And to watch him walk around and take it in. I mean, he was doing tours with the cameras following him. He saw his picture up on Cammy at the time probably had 6, 7, 8 years in the big leagues. but it was really cool because it was genuine. How touched he was that he was an all-star. He went out throughout the entire, at the time it was Safeco Field. Now it's T-Mobile. He
Yeah.
was looking at all the pillars because he was pissed that his picture wasn't on one of the pillars. And they finally found a pillar like out in right field. And he's like, this is it. This is, and it was back then it wasn't big social media. It was more regular TV cameras.
Yeah.
But I remember watching him, and it wasn't for the cameras. It was a genuine thing that was going through Mike at the time, and that's, to me, summed it up what it was all about. I mean, he was just taking it in, and that city was crazy at the time. He was a hometown guy, but I think that's what All Stars are all about.
Yeah, it was. It's funny you say that guys were like, I don't know if I'm going to show up this year. I experienced that in minor leagues. Guys would make all-star games, and guys, I'm like, yeah, it's the minor leagues, but it's still a great accomplishment you made. It's something that you work for your whole entire offseason, your whole entire year. Going back what you did before this, like how do you not show up to? I know it's a minor league all-star game, but it's still a fun thing to go to.
Yeah,
You know?
it's a stepping stone. It's
Yeah,
a stepping stone. And most guys never get to go to the big leagues, let alone make a career out of it, let alone be an all-star at the big league level. Very cool. Very cool. I look at your life. I look at your career. It wasn't exactly a smooth path, you
no,
know. Um, you're born in Cuba,
yes,
and I've had Tony Perez on the show, his son Eduardo, Louis Tiant, who I want to get to a little bit later, who actually mentioned you in the interview I had with Louis. I want to hear your family story, how you got to the U.S. from Cuba, and then I got a Cuba story for you. I was there in the late '80s playing against the Cuban national team, but I want to
yeah,
hear
yeah.
your family story.
So I was born in '94. My parents married in '93. I was born in '94. Um, I'm born December 10 of '94, and in July of '95, we come to the States. My dad had his family had put like a lottery ticket in for him. He didn't even write it himself. They put his name in this lottery, and so in Cuba they make this they do this lottery where they pick out names, and they do about, I think it's like 10, 15, or 20,000 a year, but not necessarily because you get picked, you're able to come to the States automatically. You got to come up with some money. Um, you got to make sure, you're settled in Cuba to be able to come over here. So we had that in order. He had a sister here in Miami at the time that helped him with the process from here. And obviously, we were doing our stuff over there to be able to come. Um, so we come in '95. My mom is 19. My dad is 26. I want to say. I'm a newborn, and this sister that he has helps us with the first couple months here. Takes us in. My dad finds a job. My mom finds a job. We move out. I think like in the first 6 months of us being here. Um, and then my dad's been working nonstop from '96 all the way till last year, where I told him to take a little break. Um, Waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, getting home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon every single day, Monday to Friday. My mom was more of a housewife. She was the one that would take me to school, make sure my homework was done, fed me. My dad would come home from work at 5. Once I started getting into that age where I was playing baseball, I started at 4 years old. Um, every time my dad would get home, come home, change, have something to eat, take me to practice or take me to the game, and we did that all the way till high school, from 4 years old to 15 years old. So for 11 years, that's all we did. I was always a position player. I pitched at times because I threw a lot of strikes, but I loved to play out the outfield. Um, I was an outfielder all the way until sophomore year in high school, and then we didn't have any pitching, and they're like, hey, we need you to pitch. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, I know how to pitch. I'll pitch. I was 80 to 84 as a sophomore, junior. And then it wasn't until that fall of senior year where I started working out. I started trying to get stronger. I didn't know how reachable the draft was for me. Lefty, 5'9", 5'10" at best. I was 87, 88. Um, I just didn't know like what the market was, or what people liked or wanted. Um, but my goal was always to go to college, and um, Hispanic families. I mean, probably all families around the world, they want their son to go to school, get a degree, make a name for themselves. I would have been the first generation to go to college here in the United States, so that would have been something big for me and big for my family. Um, and I remember it wasn't until probably like 2 or 3 months before the draft, a bunch of scouts showing up to the games, and I'm like, man, I can't believe this is happening right now. Like, I'm the only player here in this field that is throwing 87, 88, and nobody else is hitting homers here. So I'm like, this is for me. This is for me. Um, so and nothing, and then one thing led to the other, and I remember I was a 36 rounder. Thank God there was 40 rounds back then, because
Yeah,
right
it's
now,
changing. It's changing.
I would not have been drafted. So they call me. The Yankees call me, and the area scout here at the time, Carlos Marti. We had a good relationship because he was a teacher at my school. He coached me in my summer team. He's like, hey, we got to go to Tampa because they want you to. I was already drafted, and they wanted me to throw a live VP in Tampa. I'm like, how does that make any sense? They saw me for 6 months in high school. They want me to throw a live VP, and that's what's going to determine if they sign me or not. So, anyways, we go to Tampa. I throw against their GCL guys, their minor league guys, um, and they offered me on the spot. They said, "Hey, we're going to give you 75,000 to sign," and I said, "No, I'd rather go to school." We leave. About 5, 7 minutes later, they call back and they say, "Hey, we're gonna give you 85." And my parents at the time were like, "Hey, you do whatever you want. Like, we don't want to influence your decision. Like, you made this career out of yourself. We want you to be happy." And once they said that, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna sign. I'm not going to school.
Yeah.
I'll take the 85K." Um, and it was obviously a tough minor league career for me, but it worked out.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and people don't, I look at the game today, and I think it's great. I think a lot of the strides that not only the big league level is making, but the minor league level, I appreciate all that. But when I was back, I was in the minor leagues in 1990. I signed, and man, I went to A ball, and it was like I'm here for one reason, to get to double A and to get out of double A. And in A ball, it was the Carolina League. And back then it was you make 750 a month and you find your own housing. It wasn't like we have today. I walk into the minor league locker rooms today. I'm like, do you have any clue what it was like when I was playing in the minor leagues? But back then I didn't care. It's like I'm getting an opportunity to live my dream,
Yep.
and the only way I get out of this A ball park with the a locker, rinky dink locker in the corner and leaking pipes, is I play really good. And then when I got to the big leagues, and after I had some time in the big leagues, I look back at those minor league days and with fondness. I thought, yeah, we struggled, but we were all in it together. We didn't care. We were all about the winning games and playing well. And
Yep.
it wasn't a big deal. Money wasn't a big issue. It's like I'd get my rent aside, I'd pay the rent, had a few bucks here, and you find a way to get by. But it ain't about that, because
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to the ballpark to hit early and get the hell out of A ball, get to double A, and then get to triple A, then get to the big leagues. So I didn't look at it as poor me. I'm a minor leaguer. I need this, all this nice stuff. It's like, no, I was hungry. And it made me appreciate the big leagues once I got to the big leagues. I don't know. It's a little bit different. I think it's good to give the minor league guys a better environment, better equipment, better fields to play on. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But when I hear guys, oh, we need this or we need that, I laugh. I have got a son that's in the minor leagues, And if he starts in on that, I said, "Listen, buddy, you don't add a nickel to the bottom line. Nobody comes to the stadium to watch you play. You get an opportunity to chase your dream." And I laugh about it. But those stories, and so your parents are from Cuba. Baseball's huge in Cuba. I was in Cuba.
Huge,
I
huge.
go there in 1989. It wasn't the Olympics. It was like the Pan Am Games or something. We fly into Cuba, and back then you couldn't go to Cuba. You weren't allowed unless, it was a special thing. And it was, the USA team playing the Cuban national team. By the way, we got whooped 3 games.
Really,
It was like men playing with boys. I was back in when Linares was the third baseman, and there was some crazy guy that was all over. He was kind of the showman of the group. I forget. He's a famous
Mesa,
guy. Yeah,
Mesa.
yeah, yeah. He had the high socks, and he was kind of like why people came there. He entertained everybody.
Yeah,
But we went in there, kind of cocky, thought we were going to whoop up. I mean, we got drubbed all 3 games. I don't even think
no
Castro, we
way.
kept hearing Castro's coming to the game. And I think they were whooping us so bad. I don't know if he ever showed up, but it was an interesting time. And I know your dad before he came out here, your parents. Uh, I was befriended by two Cuban guys, spoke great English, came up to us. We got our USA gear. We're walking around Havana, and we were befriended by these two guys and said, "Hey, we'll take you around. We'll show you the sights. We'll take care of you." And they did. They got us some cigars and took us to some cool places. And at the end of every night, that we'd go back to our hotel and we'd shake hands, say, "Hey, see you tomorrow. We'll meet here. We'll go here." They're going to show us the sights. So, so one night, the guy comes to me and he says, "Hey, Booney, can I get $10? Or I want to go to the discotheque." And I said, "Of course. These guys have been great for us." I hand him a $10 bill, American. I turn around on the ground. Police tackled him, paddy wagon to jail for taking money from me. That when it got real for me. And then right before we left, he asked me if I could buy him a blow up boat. And I said, "What are you doing?" He says, I got to get off the island. And then at that point, I'm going, wait a minute. I'm here on the USA team
Wow.
representing the United States. And this guy wants me to buy him a boat to try to escape. What kind of scandal am I going to get into? So I love these
You
two guys.
imagine?
I forget to this day. I forget the guys' names, but they were wonderful. They just wanted to hang out with us, and they did us a favor by showing us around, and kind of they were locals. And I would have done anything for him except for buy him a boat to try to get off the island because I'm like, I don't need this scandal. I don't need to be detained. And that's the way life was then in
Yeah,
Cuba.
yeah. It's very difficult to this day. There's no food in the market to buy. There's no bread. It's there's I mean there's a shortage of everything over there, and people are struggling. People, it's I mean people say it's a third world country. It's like a fourth world country right now. Like it's brutal to go over there. I haven't been back since I was 13. The last time I went, I was 13 years old. I still had family over there. Um, so my parents would go and I was still in school, and every summer we would go and hang out. I One of the best times I've experienced has been in Cuba. I remember telling my parents would ask me every summer, "You want to go to Disney World or you want to go to Cuba?" And I said, "No, I want to go to Cuba." Because in Cuba, I was able to do stuff that I couldn't do here. I would walk around barefoot in the street. I would play baseball every single day. I would wake up from my bed and go out to the middle of the street and play baseball. Um, when it rained, I was able to get in all the puddles, jump splash in all the puddles, and I just felt like one of them when I was there, and it was so cool for them to just bring me in. Like you said, they brought me in. They loved me. We played every single day I was there, and as a little kid, you don't really know what else is going on around you, you know. So I
Yeah,
was just I was just enjoying that moment.
that's pretty cool. Okay, Louis Tion. You have a very unique windup. It's become quite the craze in the last 2 or 3 years. You're just different. I'll tell you, as a hitter, you drive me crazy because I'm like, come on, just deliver the ball. I get it. I get it. I get it. Louis, did you have a chance to meet Louis? I think he said to me, I got a chance to meet Nestor.
Yes, we met at Boston in our clubhouse, in Yankee clubhouse. He walked by, um, and I want to say I can't remember the exact moment, but I know he knew that I was Cuban, and he told me something, and I don't recall right now, but I know we had that interaction and we were able to talk for a little bit.
Um, this is weird. Aaron's dad, my dad, Bob Boone. I had dinner with him last night. I told him, I said, we're having Nestor Cortes on. He goes, oh, really? He goes, you know what? He goes, I would have really liked to catch a guy like him. It seemed like it would be a lot of fun. So he wanted me to pass that on to you. My mom was there, and she goes, yeah, I really like Nestor. I don't know if you remember my mom, Aaron's mom, but she remembers you. And she's like, I really like Nestor. And I told him Dad would love to catch him. You know.
I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Um, so you're drafted in 13.
Yep.
Uh, this is another subject, and it's different for you. You were a Rule 5 guy.
Yep.
You're drafted by the Yankees. In 2017, the Baltimore Orioles take you in the Rule 5. And I think this is good for the people listening to the Boom podcast out there to kind of get educated on the Rule 5 process. I played with some guys that came over as Rule 5. Some were successes, some weren't successful. But
Yeah.
explain it through your eyes. When you get Rule 5, and that means that you need to be on the roster and stay on the roster all year.
Yeah.
As a player, as a Rule 5, tell me what that's like. I mean, do you feel like other players look at you like, well, you didn't earn that, you're just there?
At times,
Tell me,
yes.
give me the ins and outs of actually living that.
So, like you said, I get Rule 5 in the winter of 17. I didn't really know at the time what the hell was going on. I just knew I had to show up to Sarasota for the Orioles spring training. And I show up, and all of a sudden I got a locker. People are attending me. I've never been to big league camp before that. So I'm like, this is all new to me. Do I need anything else? Do I want an extra shirt? So the treatment right away was amazing. Obviously, coming from the minor leagues, you don't get that treatment because hey, here's a shirt, you're gonna wear it. It's not your size. Okay, well, here's your size. Give me that one back.
Right.
In the big leagues, is more like, hey, I need 2 or 3 shirts. Can I have shower shoes? Can I have this? So off the get go, that was what impressed me the most being there. And then it's like you said, as the game started going, as the practices started going, there were games where you don't perform as well, or you do perform, or you outperform somebody. And now the clubhouse, because there's non-roster invites that probably been in the big leagues for 3 or 4 years or 5 years. And I remember being there. Nobody had that. I felt like nobody had that intention towards me, but you knew there was guys there out to prove, and they were coming for spots. I was going to be a starter off spring. We signed a couple guys. I slot into the long relief role in the bullpen. And that's how I made the team. I didn't know what to expect. We are the day we break in camp, I still don't know if I made the team or not. And the guys were like, don't worry about it. Machado was great with me. Machado's from Hialeah also. He knew my story. He took me in. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. You make the team. I'm like, no, nobody has told me that.
Nobody's telling you anything.
Like, what do I do? Like, do I pack? Do I pack for 4 days? Do I pack for a week? Do I pack to go to Baltimore? Do I get an apartment to this day? To that day, I didn't have an apartment in Baltimore. So I'm
You're
like,
just gonna chill at the hotel.
yeah. I didn't know what to do. So we fly to Norfolk to have a exhibition game with the AAA team. I'm in the dugout. I'm not pitching that day. I'm like, I didn't travel for no reason. If I traveled, I think I'm going to Baltimore. I don't think they're gonna send me back to Sarasota if I'm not traveling. If I didn't make the team. So we fly to Baltimore. We start looking for apartments, me, Santander, and one of the other Rule 5 guys that we both made the squad. 2 Rule 5 guys made the squad. And that's unheard of. So we start looking for apartments. We finally choose one. Next day we go to the ballpark for that practice before the season starts. Buck Showalter calls me to the office. He said, "Hey, you made the team." And
Thanks.
yeah, like obviously Buck has so many years under his belt. Um, I don't know if his mind was on other stuff at that moment where he had to make a roster and he needed to make the best roster available. So I'm like, hey, thanks. I was super happy, but there was nothing else going on. Like it wasn't like, hey, congratulations, you made it to the big leagues. We're so happy for you. It was like, hey, you made the squad. You're gonna be a long guy. Hope you help us.
Good luck.
Yeah. Um, and one more experience I had was with the pitching coach McDowell. I remember coming in. Probably like the first or second game of mine. I gave up a grand slam in Houston. We lose the game, and the next day I'm like, man, the umpire was squeezing me. He's like, what do you expect? You're a rookie. Like he gave me one of those answers from that. But listen, those two moments with Buck and with McDowell, I held it in and I sucked that in because it made me a lot stronger. It was like, hey, don't expect anything from anybody. Go out and get it.
Right.
Make that name for yourself. Don't leave it at chance. Um, and it was something that to this day I feel like I used that and I said, don't make an excuse if things didn't go right this start or didn't go right this day. You have another opportunity to make it right. And obviously there's good days and bad days, but we try and do the best out of every day.
I think that's a good point too, because as we go through this life, and you're still a young man, what are you, 29 years old? You got a
20 years.
lot of life left, a lot of baseball left, and you're going to have another fork in the road at some point. We all do. It goes great. I was up in my career. I'd have unbelievable years. I had a tough year, I had an average year, but man, baseball's a roller coaster. And when you get to a point where you find that consistency, and that only comes with experience and knowledge. But I remember some of my early managers, man, I'd be killing it, and they're treating me like you said Buck did, and I'd be looking at him like, why is he nice to everybody else, but he's not nice? Now looking back, I think, oh, there was a lesson there for me. He
Yeah.
knew what made me tick. He knew maybe because when I was young, I was a brash kid. I'd come in, hair on fire and swinging hard, man. And
Hmm.
I needed to be bridled a little bit, but he knew, hey, I could push the right buttons with Brett. That makes him play better. I didn't realize that at the time. I thought they were just treating me poorly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say you at the time you were confused, like, wow, shouldn't this be a nice time where I'm being welcomed to the team? But it was more like, yeah, you're on the team. Hopefully you do well. It's like you probably had to be feeling at the time, wow. But now, fast forward a few years, you use that as experience. You're going to be able to help another young kid one day when they get to the big leagues. They say,
Oh yeah.
Nestor, what's going on? You're gonna have a smile and you're gonna go, listen, kid, come here. I'll tell you what happened to me. And it's pretty cool. That's how we do it. That's
Yeah.
how we do it. We're all rookies. We're all middle of our careers, and then we're all salty veterans at some point. When I remember when I was a rookie, they were hard on me, and man, my teammates would give me a hard time, made me wear a dress like 10 times, but I did it with a smile. And then when I got to be a veteran player, 13, 14 years in the big leagues, I was able to mentor and help young players come along, and maybe if I give them a little advice, like, you might not want to do this in that situation. You might want to do this because I did that, and here's
Yeah.
here's what happens when you do that. But it's cool, and it's just baseball, and it's just the life that we're fortunate enough to live and
Yep.
do for a living. But they're all lessons, and that's cool. You talk about Buck. There might have been something behind that. Buck
There might have
treating you
been.
like that. That could have been premeditated. He could
Yeah.
have said, "All right, this is how I'm going to see how Nestor responds to this." You mentioned the grand slam. You give up another grand slam, you get sent back. You get sent back to New York.
I gave up
Uh,
two grand slams in a span of 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, there's people that go on a 20-year career and don't give up a grand slam. I just gave it up in 2 weeks. I just gave up two in 2 weeks.
And now your head's got to be spinning. You're going back to New York. Then you go to Seattle. You take a year in Seattle. I think you got injured that year.
Yeah.
And then you're back to New York for the third time. How did that come about? After that year with the Mariners, I think it was 2020. How do you
20.
get back to the Yankees? Did the Yankees call you, or are you calling them?
So after 2020 season, they called me, say, hey, we're going to DFA you. I said, I understand. And I was still hurt at the time through that call. I go to the DR to play winter ball to prove that I'm healthy, to prove that I'm pitching. So I go in the winter to the DR, and I start pitching. And they have a athletic trainer that resides in the DR. He has his own clinic. He's doing well for himself over there, but he's also the athletic trainer here with New York. And he calls me over. He's like, "Hey, man, I've known him since I've been drafted. So he calls me as a buddy situation. He's like, "Hey, how are you feeling? Like, how's the leg? How's the arm?" I go, I feel great. I feel good. I don't have. There's no restrictions. There's no issues. I'm pitching here. Obviously, you see how well I'm pitching. He's like, "Yeah, why don't you swing by the clinic one of these days so I can check you out just to make sure you're good." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." And even before that, Yankees call, and my agent calls me and he's like, "Hey, Yankees are interested again." I go, "Perfect. Where do I sign?" Because I was dying to be a Yankee again. I wanted to go back. He's like, "No, wait, not yet. Let's wait it out a little bit." Um, and then I remember I was in Colorado for my birthday, December 10, and they called me and say, "Hey, we're interested. We want you back." And obviously, the sorry,
Technically, no
technicality of
technicalities. Yeah,
yeah of it all with my agent and them, blah blah. It got sorted out, and I show up in spring training. And I knew that I had to bust my butt to catch attention again because I had a great minor league career. My minor league career was off the charts. Like I don't think a lot of people had the minor league career I had as far as the numbers, but I didn't know how to translate that into the big leagues. I didn't know how to. I wasn't confident. I didn't know what to do to make it better. I didn't have a routine. My routine. I was a starter in the minor leagues. I piggybacked every now and then I got to the big leagues, and now I'm a reliever.
right.
I have no idea. So spring comes spring comes along. I'm a non-roster invite, and the last day of spring, Booney calls me into the office and says, "Hey, we don't have a spot for you. You pitched your butt off, but we don't have a spot for you. Go down to Scranton for a couple weeks, and we're gonna sort some things out. Be ready because you might be one of the first ones." I go, perfect. I wasn't expecting to make the team. I was just happy to have a baseball team to play for. Um, Go down to the minor leagues in 21, and I was there for I want to say a month and a half, and I get called up. And I remember calling my parents. I'm like, "Hey, I made it back with the Yankees," and they were super excited. They flew out, um, and from that moment on, I never went back to the minor leagues.
I think there's a point for all of us. I remember my first call up, and my attitude was, "I'll never see the minor leagues again." Well, I got sent down back on that shuttle three more times. But I remember a point where it finally clicked for me at the big league level, because you're right, it is different. You had all this success in the minor leagues, but nobody cares in the big leagues about your minor league bubblegum card.
Nobody.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about if you're a high draft pick, or in your case a 36 round draft pick. Nobody cares in the big leagues. It's
Yeah.
what can you do? Can you play here? And you need to prove you can play here. And we all have a point where it clicks. that particular year, you ended up getting 14 starts. I think the most starts you had in a year in the big leagues was 1
Yeah.
until then. So all of a sudden, you're in your comfort zone again. You're getting an opportunity to start. You had a 2.9 that year. When was that moment for you? I remember mine where it clicked and you kind of looked around and felt for the first time, I'm a big leaguer and I belong here.
So I want to say for my first 8 of those 14 starts, I was it was ridiculous, but I would come out of the bullpen straight into the game like if I was a reliever.
Because okay, I got you. I got you.
so so um I don't know how many appearances I had that year, but I know I was having a really good year. As a reliever to start off the year, I didn't know I might have made 12 appearances, something like that, 15 appearances. Does that sound right? I don't know.
Sounds right. I know that I was looking at your starts. I know you started 14
So,
games that year.
anyways, I make those 14 appearances. I have like a 1-3 throughout the whole 14 appearances, and little by little, Booney starts. Hey, you're gonna spot start. 2 innings here. You're gonna spot start 3 innings there, and that's how I started building up to my pitch limit. But then it came to where I was already throwing 4 or 5 innings, and I remember Mike Harkey was like, "Dude, when the hell are you gonna stop coming from the bullpen? You're a starter now. You got to go to the dugout and come out from the dugout
like a normal person.
like a normal starter." I'm like, nope, I'm not changing anything. Like, I'm having success. I don't want to. I don't want to be that guy to think that I'm already a starter and then
Right.
shit goes bad. So he's like, "Man, you're ridiculous." So, anyways, it wasn't until my 8th or 9th start where I started coming from the dugout. That From that moment that I started coming out from the dugout, I said, "Okay, I belong." I felt like I earned it, and I made it, and now I'm gonna start doing this.
It is cool though, and there is a moment where you feel different. The players look at you different. Just a glance. The skipper, probably Aaron, looked at you different.
Yep.
Coaches, Mike Harkey, like you said, has been down in that bullpen for a lot of years now. It's a cool feeling because, man, that's what we fight and claw to just, we want to prove that we're a big leaguer and we're a real big leaguer. We're not just there; we're there to
Yeah.
stay.
And you want to get respected by your teammates. That's basically
Right,
my main focal point. I mean, you look at that clubhouse in 21, MVPs, All Stars, contenders for Cy Youngs, contenders for batting titles that were won in both leagues by DJ. I mean, you look up and down that list, and there's so many successful guys, so many rich people in that clubhouse, and you start imagining like, hey, like, what would it be like to maybe get invited to dinner with these guys, or
right.
what would it be like to be on the road and hanging out in a room with these guys. And then I started taking all that in, and I was like, man, this is so good to feel this way, where you never want to let go of that feeling, and that's what's made me try and be the best version I can every single day.
Yeah, that's very cool. Uh, Aaron Boone, if you like playing for him,
Loved it. Not because
yeah,
you're here, but I loved it. Every
he's
part of it. Ever since the beginning. When I was up and down in 19 with the Yankees, um, I wasn't put into the best role possible, but I made every opportunity out of it. I got called up to the big leagues mid May, I want to say, late May, and I had 70 innings in the big leagues for not starting. I was more of the long relief guy, the mop up guy. But every time I would get sent down, he'd call me to the office, and he didn't know how to look at me because I felt like he didn't want me to be sent down, and I may not be deserved to be sent down, but just
right.
because of how the roster was going on, and we
It's
needed
a
an
number.
available
It's a
pitcher.
numbers thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
we
numbers
needed an
thing.
available pitcher the next day, and I wasn't
Right.
available. I had just pitched 3 innings that day. Um, and I remember him telling me like, "Dude, I hate doing this to you. I hate it because this is your fifth time already, and you
Yeah.
probably and it's crazy because that whole year I never fulfilled my 10 days in the minor leagues. Every time I got sent down, something would happen where somebody would get hurt. Um, some scenario would happen, and I'll be the one to get called back up. And he was always the guy. He was always the one that he picked on me to come back every single time. So, um, and then from 21 to now, it's like we talked about earlier. That respect, I feel like I gained his respect. Um, I'm a little intimidated by. I know he's going to see this, and you're probably going to talk, but I'm a little intimidated by him at times.
He has no idea that you're on, but he will see it because it comes out tomorrow. So he's going to call me. He's like, "Hey, I was Nestor." Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's going to see it.
So
Listen, he ain't that big and bad. I'll take care of him. Boy. Don't worry about it. I'm still his big brother.
he would catch me in the hallways. Hey, how you feeling? I go, I'm good. He goes, you ready? I go, yeah, let's go. But just that interaction right there, I'm like, fuck, I gotta fucking perform because
now I gotta
him
go.
Was,
Yeah,
yeah.
We
told him I was
all
ready.
have it. We all have it,
ready.
man. We all have it, and it's it just happens. Your skipper happens to be my brother. But we all have, we all had that skipper, man. Should have seen me with Lou Pinella when I was young. I'm like, oh man, he coming, and I hated it when we were going down the hallway, and I saw him at the end. I'm like, we're gonna have to cross, and I'm
hate
just
it
trying
every time.
right. And then the second time around with Lou in the 2000s, at this time I'm a 10-year veteran. He's and I oversay this on the Boone podcast, but Lou to this day is one of my favorite, not baseball men, but one of my favorite men that I've ever been touched by in my life, and to this day we're very close, and our relationship's different than when I was young trying to make a name for myself. But I remember those uncomfortable, oh man, can he just walk the other way, can he turn left before I get down there, because I'm already starting on this path. It's too obvious if I veer off. So if he veers off, he's the skipper. He's allowed to do that. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Very cool. And Aaron, by the way, always speaks very highly of you. And obviously you're with our representation. We share mutual agents, and that's a very cool thing. New York, how do you like it? I was a guy that I couldn't wait to get to New York. I love playing, especially the Yankees, but Mets, it didn't matter. I love being in the city. I love walking down the street. I love the guys on the other side of the street yelling at me, telling me they're going to kick my ass today. That was New York, and I loved it. I always thought, at the end of my career, if I get a chance, I'd like to play in New York. Didn't end up working out for me, but your experience, for me, there's kind of nothing like it. Your experience and what's your advice to a free agent that's considering playing in New York? What should you tell them is different than playing everywhere else?
You know what? What's different is you're gonna hear it from both sides, whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad. If you're doing bad, you're obviously gonna hear all the loud noises, and it's not gonna be pretty what they're gonna say to you. But if you're on the good side, you feel it's so uplifting. You feel like such a hero in that city because it's all they want to do. They just want to win. They don't care how it's done, who does it. They just want to win. And I remember being at restaurants in New York, and they're like, "Hey, we got some money to do tomorrow, so you better come and show up."
Oh,
I'm
boy.
like, "Oh damn."
You got gangsters, you got mob guys checking you out.
Yeah, these are like Latin guys, Dominican people. They're like, "Hey, we got some money in the game tomorrow, so you better." And then I when I go again, I would hear the good and I would hear the bad, and I'm like, it is what it is, man. I'm trying to perform out there. I'm trying to be my best. But for free agents, I feel like there's no better place to play. It's like you said, you're walking the street and you would hear from the other side, everybody booing, telling you stuff, and I feel like you don't get that anywhere else. I haven't been around long enough to know, every city, every park, but you go to Kansas City, you go to, I don't know, Cincinnati, you go anywhere, Miami, anywhere. You can walk around the street and nobody's gonna tell you, hey, we're gonna beat your ass tomorrow, or any
New York's the only
New York's the only
place.
The only place.
Boston takes their baseball very seriously. Chicago, St. Louis, different type though. St. Louis
Different
are more
types.
cordial and nice.
I love St. Louis. St. Louis is nice.
But there's nothing like New York. Philly is probably the closest thing to New York. Philadelphia, they can get pretty rowdy, but New York, the reason I loved it so much was the 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 fans didn't mean anything by it. When they yelled at me from across the street when I was going to get a cup of coffee in the morning, just walking down the city, walking down the street in Manhattan, uh, they weren't vindictive, like they hated me. They just wanted to give me some grief, and then I'd look back at them and I'd give them a wave, and they'd smile. So it wasn't like I want to kill you and your family. It was no, we want to kick your ass tonight. The thing I found too is when I kicked the Yankees' ass, it was very well received. It's almost like the fans appreciated it. So that's to me that's what I always remember. And playing in an old Yankee Stadium. I know you didn't get a chance to play there, but it was
I
a
can't
special
imagine.
place.
I
It
can't
was,
imagine.
I remember a few years ago I came back. I was there for the playoffs, and I forget what year, but it's the first time I've been back to New York and to a game. And I was there to see Aaron, and I remember I came in through your players tunnel, and a lot of the guys that at the end of my career were working the tunnel. Were still working the tunnel at New Yankee Stadium. And I remember walking in, and they're like, "Booney, we haven't seen you. It's been a while." And I said, old Yankee Stadium or new? And they look at me, oh, are you kidding me? Old Yankee Stadium, and we'd come in before the games and there's pipes and dripping, and we get into this old raunchy locker room, but there's nothing like it. You walk out of that field and it's like goosebumps. It's a different place. And Jeter used to say the ghosts would come. I believe in the ghosts. Believe me, I've been a victim to that ghost a couple times, but there's nothing like it. And I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing like playing a postseason in New York at
Oh
Yankee
yeah.
Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's a new one, not quite as cool as the old one, but it's still Yankee Stadium. Um, how you feeling? You ready to go? You healthy?
Great. Yes, yes. Feel healthy. I'm about five bullpens in. I've been traveling to Tampa every week, just to work out over there, throw my bullpens over there, make sure they got eyes on me, they got hands on me. Um, and I told them the beginning of December, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of going to Tampa starting next week, if that's okay with you guys. They're like, yeah, we would love for you to come in. Uh, it's a no brainer. So I've been going since the week before Christmas. I've been going Monday, coming back Friday, going Monday, coming back Friday. Uh, I'm leaving tonight actually as we speak. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Um, you got some new teammates this year. You got Juan Soto, Verdugo, which I think for me is an under the radar pick. I think you played against him quite a bit,
Yep.
him being in Boston. Um, and obviously you just signed Marcus Stroman to be a part of that rotation with yourself and Garrett Cole at the top, and Rodon hopefully having a comeback season. The East is getting tougher.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Baltimore now is a player. It's always been Boston, Yankees, everybody else. Tampa Bay's in that mix. They're just tough. They're a thorn in everybody's side. It seems like every year, and
Oh
they
yeah.
just completely turn over their roster, and it's new faces, but they seem whatever their formula down in Tampa Bay, they do a great job. The Jays, obviously, from an offensive perspective, especially, are really tough.
Yeah.
But it's really if I look at it from the outside right now, probably the best division in baseball. Um, you got new teammates. I think the key for that Yankee team always has been, and as I've been following now as a part of the media the last few years, it's always been a health thing. If they can just keep their boys healthy, they
Yep.
can do it. But when you're missing a lot of the big players, it's not truly that Yankee team that was supposed to be out on the field. Last year was a perfect example of that, and it's tough in New York because they don't care. They're basically you stink or you're great,
Yep.
and they don't
Yep.
take into consideration the little idiosyncrasies. That well, if we're missing Aaron Judge and Nestor Cortez was out of the rotation for X amount of games, and we missed Rodon for the first 2 months of the season, big offseason acquisition a year ago. They don't factor that in. They just see the
No.
wins and losses and say you stink. Well,
Yeah.
these are all a part of that, and as long as you stay healthy, I look at this roster pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Rizzo missed a huge part of last year.
Yeah. He did.
Glaber's the one that stayed healthy for the main part of the season. You had Judge for 4 months, and he was still kind of even an MVP candidate at 4 months. My opinion, probably healthy for 162 games. I don't know if somebody I don't know with all the great players out there, Judge might be at the top of the list for me as far as offensive player and
Oh
difference
yeah.
maker.
Oh
But
yeah.
how do you look to the 2024 season? You excited about it? Give me
I'm
give
super
me a
excited.
give
I'm
me a
super
little bit of
excited.
insight.
Um, uh, that we're down in Tampa. We're like 8 or 9 of us in Tampa right now, early. I think that's good. We have Judgy there, Glaber, Rodon is in, myself. Cappy's there, Wellesley's there. We have Ben is there. We have a lot of guys that can make a difference for us. And like you said, we have these new guys coming in. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Soto actually hitting for my team.
Right.
um, Stroman, I'm excited for Stroman too because I know he's a New York guy and he brings that energy. He's gonna bring that energy for us. I feel like he's gonna embrace it, and I feel like he's gonna perform well here. And Verdugo, obviously Verdugo, he's a ball player, man. He looks like he goes out there every
He is.
day and he posts every single time. He looks like he has that chip on his shoulder too. He plays hard. He plays out there hard. I remember seeing him against us. Um, you know, there was guys on our team that didn't want to face him because he was just you didn't know what you were gonna get from him. He could take you deep to right, or he could just shoot something the other way, and you didn't know how you were gonna pitch this guy. Um, so we're excited. We're excited. I know the guys that are there in Tampa right now are excited. We've been working hard. I can't wait for these next few weeks to pass by so we can actually meet up in camp and see old faces again and just get ready for a new journey for us.
Very cool. Well, Nestor Cortes, I appreciate you, man, coming on the show. This was a lot of fun catching up with you, getting to know you a little bit. I'll see you this year at some point. I don't know, but I want to wish you all the best because I'm a fan. I love watching you pitch. I think you make it fun, and it's going to be interesting to watch this season. All the best. Stay healthy. And for all you out there watching the Boone podcast, we're now putting it on YouTube. Thanks for checking it out. For those of you listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. And we will see you next time. Thanks, Nestor.
Thank you, Booney. Appreciate you.